Scorpio, take a breath, not a shallow one, a soul-deep breath, the kind that echoes through lifetimes, because what you are about to hear isn't a message, it's a mirror held not to your face but to your essence. There's a reason you've never fully fit in, a reason you've always felt too much, too deep, too intense, too knowing, even when no one had the language for what you carried. That reason is this: you were not made like the others, you were forged. While others were shaped in sunlight, you were sculpted in shadow, not by mistake, not by accident, but by design. Scorpio, the world loves comfort, but you were born to disturb the comfortable, to shake what's fake, to peel back the veil of what looks normal and expose the sacred beneath it. And because of that, because your soul has always remembered what others have forgotten, God gave you something no other sign was entrusted with. 7 sacred gifts, not talents, not quirks, not traits, but divine activations. Each one an ancient code, each one a spiritual key that unlocks another level of who you are and why you're here. These 7 gifts are why people misunderstand you, why they fear you, why they fall in love with your soul and run from it at the same time. Because these gifts, they aren't safe, they burn, they awaken, they transform. You don't have the luxury of living on the surface. You were not sent to coast through life in a straight line. You are the detour, the storm, the medicine. You are what the soul needs when everything false collapses. But let me say this before we go any further. This path isn't for the faint-hearted. There will be moments when you'll wish you could unsee what you see, undo what you know, unfeel what you feel, but you can't. Because, Scorpio, you didn't come here to be blind. You came to reveal, you came to remember, you came to resurrect. And it all starts here with your first gift, the one that made you different before you even had a name. The one that pierced through illusions when you were still a child. The one that made people say you just seem to know things. But what they didn't understand is that you don't just know. You see, you read souls, you read silence. You read energy, and that, Scorpio, is where your divine path begins. So don't blink, don't scroll, don't look away. Because once we open the door to the first sacred gift, nothing, and I mean nothing, will ever look the same again. Let's begin. Gift 1, Deep Vision, the soul's X-ray. Scorpio, let's be honest, you've always seen what others didn't, even before you had the words. You were already reading rooms, absorbing energies, catching vibrations hidden between sentences. When people lied, you knew. When someone smiled but carried sadness, you felt it. When someone said, "I'm fine," you could hear the scream buried underneath, and for a long time, you thought maybe something was wrong with you, but nothing was wrong. You were gifted. Your first sacred gift is this: deep vision, the ability to see beneath the surface, to perceive what is hidden, and to understand what has never been said aloud. You don't just observe, Scorpio, you penetrate. Your eyes, they are not just organs, they're ancient tools. They cut through masks, distractions, illusions. They detect truth the way a wolf detects danger, instinctively, immediately, with zero tolerance for lies. That's why people fidget when you look at them too long. It's why they get nervous. They feel seen, and not just in the casual way. They feel like their soul is under a microscope, because it is. Scorpio, you were never meant to fit in. You were sent to read between the lines of life itself. In a world obsessed with what sparkles, you are magnetized to what's buried. Where others stop at the smile, you see the wound underneath. Where most people avoid what's uncomfortable, you lean in and whisper, "Tell me the truth, I can take it." But this gift isn't always easy to carry, because when you say too much, when you feel what others repress, when you absorb the shadow no one else acknowledges, it can make you feel isolated. Like you're carrying a weight that wasn't yours. Like you're cursed with knowing too much, but you're not cursed. You're called to be the mirror in a world of masks, called to be the one who doesn't just watch but understands, who doesn't just hear but feels every tremor behind a voice. And that's not paranoia, that's perception, that's sacred clarity. Scorpio, you were never meant to live in shallow water. You came here to dive into people, into emotions, into the unspeakable depths of existence. That's why small talk feels dead to you, why surface-level relationships leave you hollow, why anything that doesn't vibrate with truth feels like poison. Because your gift doesn't allow you to float. It drags you under to what's real, to what's raw, to what's buried. But here's the paradox. You make others feel sane, but often you feel invisible, because while you're reading everyone else's soul, you wonder, who's reading mine, who sees me the way I see the world? That longing is part of the burden. But it's also what sharpens you. It's what keeps your sight sacred, not arrogant. It's what transforms your gift from ego into empathy. And that, Scorpio, is what makes you so rare. Because you don't just use your vision to expose. You use it to understand, to connect, to witness without judgment, to sit with the broken pieces of someone's truth and whisper, "You're not alone, I see you, all of you." That, beloved, is the beginning of healing. And Scorpio, you are the healer who doesn't wear white, you wear black. You walk into the dark not with a flashlight, but with your presence. You don't fear the shadow, you honor it, you translate it. You give it language, so when someone says you're too intense, smile, because what they're really saying is, "You're touching a part of me I wasn't ready to feel." And that, Scorpio, is the power of your deep vision. But remember, this gift is only the beginning, because when you see that deep, when you unearth truth that others bury, you need something even stronger to survive the emotional weight of it all. Something that doesn't just perceive the wound, but transforms it, something that turns your pain into power. And that, Scorpio, is your next gift. Let's go deeper. Gift 2, the power of transformation. You were born to burn and rise. Scorpio, if deep vision is your first sacred gift, then transformation is the fire that keeps it from destroying you. You see, when you carry the ability to perceive what others hide, you also carry their pain, their fear, their wounds. It's not just empathy, it's embodiment. And without this second gift, you would have been crushed by everything you felt. But the universe knew better, so it gave you something stronger, something that doesn't run from pain but turns it into power. The second sacred gift of Scorpio is this, the power of transformation. The divine ability to die 1,000 deaths and still rise. Not weaker, not bitter, but more awakened than before. You don't go through things, Scorpio, you become them. You let the fire enter you, you let the darkness speak. You let the endings tear you open, and you build a temple from the ashes. This is not poetry, this is your life. Let me tell you a story. Katy Perry, a Scorpio sun. Before she became a global star, she was dropped from multiple record labels, rejected by the industry, and lived in silence while dreaming loudly. And yet she rose, but she didn't rise pretending everything was perfect. She rose by owning her darkness, writing songs like Wide Awake and By the Grace of God, rooted in heartbreak, faith, and rebirth. That is Scorpio. Your pain isn't the end, it's the initiation. Every Scorpio soul carries a trail of wreckage behind them, not because you destroy on purpose, but because you can't help but burn through what is fake, jobs you outgrew, relationships that couldn't meet your depth, identities you had to bury, versions of yourself that had to die. And people wonder why you're intense, but they weren't there, were they? They didn't see you cry in silence when no one understood. They didn't witness you holding your own broken pieces together when others walked away. They didn't see how you learned to rebuild yourself from nothing. That's what this gift is about. Scorpio, you don't slap a bandage on your soul. You tear the wound open, you pour salt, you face the fire, and in doing so you heal not just yourself but everyone who watches you rise. This is why your presence scares some people. You're not just a person, you're a symbol of change. You walk into a room and people feel the shift, not because you're loud but because you're true. You are the mirror they weren't ready to face. And what's more terrifying than a person who reflects back everything we're avoiding? But that's your sacred task. To remind the world, nothing fake survives truth. That's why some people cling to you and others vanish, because you don't allow masks. You don't allow numbing, you don't allow sleepwalking through life. You bring death not to people but to illusions. But let me say this clearly, transformation is not pretty, it burns, it breaks. It costs you comfort, control, certainty. You've lost people, opportunities, pieces of yourself, but every time you've crumbled, Scorpio, you've come back sharper, cleaner, truer because you didn't return the same. You returned reborn, and that's why you're unshakable now. Not because life was easy, but because you've been to hell and you built a home there. You've kissed the floor of rock bottom, and when you stood back up, your light was no longer borrowed, it was forged. That's the magic of this gift. So when the world tells you, why are you always reinventing yourself? Smile, because Scorpio, you weren't born to stay the same. You were born to evolve, like the snake that sheds its skin. Like the phoenix that burns to ash before taking flight. Like the river that carves new paths when old ones dry up. You are change embodied. You are death sacred. You are rebirth unstoppable. And that's not just strength. That's divinity. Now hear me, Scorpio. This gift is not a punishment. It's protection. It's preparation. Because what you're meant to do in this lifetime can't be done by someone who's never broken, never shattered, never dissolved and reassembled themselves 100 times. No, your soul chose this path, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because when the world burns, you don't run, you rise, and that is what sets you apart. This gift is why your scars glow instead of ache, why your silence carries authority, why your presence feels like a rite of passage, because you didn't escape the fire. You became it, but Scorpio, there is something that happens after you rise. Something sacred, because when your pain has been alchemized, when your soul has burned clean, there is room for something even deeper to awaken, something that doesn't just see or transform, but merges, and that, beloved, is your third gift. Let's descend. Gift 3, love is fusion. When Scorpio loves, it's soul fire. Scorpio, we need to speak now. Not about how you see, not about how you rise from ashes, but about how you love. Because your third sacred gift isn't just about passion, it isn't even about romance, it's about fusion. Scorpio, when you love, you merge, you don't flirt, you initiate a soul ritual. Your third divine gift is this. Love is fusion. You don't love to be entertained. You don't love to fill silence. You love like your soul remembers something ancient. Like you're meeting someone who's lived inside you before time had a name. That's why when love finds you, it feels less like falling and more like awakening. You love with your whole being, mind, body, emotion, spirit. You don't hand people pieces of yourself. You invite them into the temple. And Scorpio, you guard that temple fiercely, not because you're cold, but because not everyone deserves to walk through your fire. People misunderstand your love all the time. They call it obsessive, intense, overwhelming. But what they don't realize is, you're not trying to possess them, you're trying to become one with them. And fusion, true fusion, can't be casual, it can't be part-time. It requires devotion, presence, and the courage to burn. Because here's the truth, when a Scorpio says, I love you, they're not saying it for effect. They're saying, I see your soul, I accept your shadow, I am willing to be changed by this connection. And not everyone can handle that. Not everyone wants to be seen that deeply. So what do? You test, you press into their truth, you challenge their surface, you wait to see, will they run when it gets real? Will they pretend? Will they only love the light in you and fear the dark? Because Scorpio, you know what it's like. To open your soul, only to be met with someone's fear, or worse, someone's performance. And after you've loved with everything, to be ghosted, betrayed, or misunderstood. That's a wound only a Scorpio can explain, but still you love again because even with the scars, you know that when it's real, when two souls truly fuse, it's holy. Let me bring this to life with a real example. Winona Ryder, born with the sun in Scorpio, she once said, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I have a hard time not giving everything. That's Scorpio. She entered a love that left her shattered. But she didn't become cynical. She became deeper, more discerning, more capable of recognizing true connection when it came again. Because once a Scorpio loves, they don't erase you. You live in their energetic memory forever. Here's the paradox, Scorpio has some of the highest walls. But once inside, they love with a depth no other sign can reach. They'll protect you like you're part of their own blood. They'll fight for you like a soldier fights for sacred ground, but betray them and you'll feel what it means to be cut off from the sacred. Because love to Scorpio isn't a mood, it's a spiritual contract. One that must be honored or released. And that's why your gift is so rare, Scorpio, because most people love to feel good. You love to feel everything. You don't seek comfort. You seek intimacy. You want to know their fears, their dreams, their contradictions. You want to be the mirror where their soul sees itself clearly. You want the kind of love that purifies, that awakens, that leaves no mask standing. And that's terrifying. For those who only know surface connection. But Scorpio, your sacred gift of fusion isn't a weakness, it's the portal. Because when two souls meet in your energy, they transform, your love becomes their rebirth. Your presence becomes the mirror, your silence becomes the fire they didn't know they needed. And yes, sometimes they run, not because of you, but because they weren't ready to be that naked. So Scorpio, if you've ever wondered, why does love hurt more for me? Why can't I love lightly like others? It's because you weren't built for shallow waters. You were born for the deep. You are the alchemist of the heart, the one who burns off illusions until only the truth remains. And that truth is that when a Scorpio truly loves, they don't just touch your life, they change your DNA. But once you've loved like this, once your heart has fused with another soul, there's something else that awakens. A power not in your hands, but in your voice. Because the next sacred gift isn't just about love. It's about how you speak to the soul. Let's go deeper. Gift 4, the language of the soul, when silence speaks louder than words. Scorpio, let me tell you something that your spirit has always known. Long before anyone ever explained it to you, your voice carries more than sound. It's not just what you say, it's the energy behind it. It's the vibration, the resonance, the presence. And sometimes, you don't need to say anything at all. Because your 4th sacred gift is this, the language of the soul. The ability to communicate truth without noise, to speak with your eyes, to express through silence, to shift people's energy just by being near them. Scorpio, you've always known there was more happening beneath every conversation. You've felt the weight of words unspoken. You've sensed the tension in what someone didn't say. You've picked up the emotional charge behind a yes that really meant no. Because to you, language was never just verbal. It was always energetic. When you walk into a room, people feel it. The air thickens, time slows down. Someone who was posturing suddenly becomes unsure of themselves. Why? Because you bring presence. And presence speaks louder than 1,000 rehearsed speeches. You are not here to chit-chat. You're not interested in empty words. You can't fake laughter or force small talk or pretend to care about what doesn't matter. Because your soul speaks in codes, in glances, in deep pauses, in stillness so charged it makes people question their own truth. This is a power one most don't understand but everyone feels. And when you do choose to speak, your words hit different, they cut through, they wake people up. You've probably heard this before, I've never told anyone that, but I'm telling you. Why do I feel like you're reading my mind? There's something about the way you said that, I can't stop thinking about it. That's not coincidence, that's your fourth gift in motion. Because your soul doesn't waste language, every word you release is coded with intent. It carries fire when needed and healing when it's time. Scorpio, you speak to awaken. Not to be liked, you speak to shift energy. Not to be clever, you speak to set people free. Take Leonardo DiCaprio, a Scorpio born. Watch how he speaks in interviews. Calm, measured, but magnetic. He doesn't talk to fill space. He lets silence linger. And when he does speak, the room adjusts. That's not charisma, that's soul authority. You have that too. You just may have been made to feel that it was too much. Your intensity, your tone, your silence. But the truth is, you were never meant to fit into shallow conversations. You were meant to crack them open. Scorpio, do you know what your eyes do to people? They disarm, they reveal, they pierce through years of protection. Because your gaze is not casual, it searches. It sees the part of someone they've tried to hide even from themselves. That's why people either lean in or back away. You are the soul whisperer, the one who delivers messages without speaking, the one who makes people cry without raising your voice. The one who enters a room and brings everything to the surface. That's your power, but it's not just for impact, it's for healing, because while others shout, you pause while others convince. You reveal, and that's what changes people. Scorpio, your silence is not emptiness, it's not coldness. It's a sacred container, a temple for truth to rise, and when you choose to speak, you don't perform, you transmit, you name the unspoken, you call out what's been buried, you turn discomfort into clarity. And yes, sometimes your words sting, but only because they're clean, and truth often burns before it heals. So don't doubt this gift. You don't have to speak more, you don't have to soften your tone, you don't have to explain your silence. You were not born to entertain. You were born to transmit soul truth. And that's why people remember you. Not for what you said, but for how they felt in your presence. You left an imprint, an energetic signature. A moment of being seen so deeply they couldn't forget it. But now, Scorpio, something else is awakening. Because once you've learned to speak without speaking, to move people without touching them, to shift energy without forcing, then your very presence becomes sacred. And that is your next gift. Let's walk into it. Gift 5, transformational presence, the alchemy of just being there. Scorpio, have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift? Not because you said anything, not because you did anything, but simply because you arrived. That's not your imagination. That's your 5th sacred gift, transformational presence. The ability to alter the atmosphere with your energy alone, to stir what's stuck, to make masks tremble, to awaken what's been sleeping just by standing there. People often describe it like this: when you're around, I feel like I have to be honest. You make me think about things I've been avoiding. I don't know why, but I feel different when I'm with you. Scorpio, that's because you carry a field. Not everyone does. Some people need noise to be noticed, but not you. You could be silent in the back corner, and still the air would buzz with your frequency. Because you don't just enter a space, you change its vibration. Let's be clear, this isn't about charisma. This isn't about trying to be powerful. This is something deeper. It's energetic, spiritual, undeniable. When you walk in, people feel a presence. That doesn't tolerate the fake. That doesn't dance with illusions. That doesn't allow things to stay unconscious. They feel their excuses unravel. They feel their lies surface. They feel their inner self rise to attention. Not because you confront them, but because your energy holds the frequency of truth. And truth, Scorpio, doesn't need to scream. Look at Ryan Gosling, another Scorpio. He doesn't need to shout or perform. He can sit still on screen, barely speaking, and still. You feel everything, the tension, the heat, the unspoken backstory. That's presence. It's what makes your stillness louder than noise. What makes your silence disarming? You don't force people to wake up. They wake up in your energy because your soul doesn't allow sleepwalking. Not in you and not in anyone who dares to come close. But Scorpio, let's talk about what this really means. When your presence alone starts to transform a room, you become a catalyst. Not everyone will like that. Some will admire it, some will resist it, some will be terrified of it. Because you don't let people pretend, you don't let energy stay stagnant, you don't let life stay half-lived. And so, some people will ghost you not because you were wrong, but because they weren't ready to be that seen, that triggered, that transformed. But here's the truth. You didn't come here to make people comfortable. You came to wake them up, to be the lightning in their storm, to be the quiet mirror that makes them question everything they've settled for. And that is not an easy thing to carry. There will be times when your presence makes you feel like the outsider, the one who shifts the tone. It's the one who brings weird energy. The one people avoid without knowing why. But don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't dim the light just because it reveals too much. Because Scorpio, you were born for this. Your presence activates. It cracks open. It moves things that have been stuck for years. Even when you feel quiet, even when you feel tired, even when you feel unseen. The room knows you're there. The energy knows. The soul of the moment knows. You are the unspoken force. Let's go deeper. When someone sits with you, really sits with you, they begin to feel their truth rise, their numbness fades, their patterns tremble, and it's not because you told them what to do, it's because your field doesn't allow denial. You are the storm before the breakthrough, you are the tension before the release, you are the silence that makes everything else sound fake. But here's the sacred paradox, even as your presence transforms others, it's also forging you. Because you don't just trigger change outside. You're always evolving inside. Every room you enter, every connection you form, every truth you witness. It refines you, sharpens you, deepens your soul's fire. This gift is a two-way portal. You awaken others, yes, but it also calls you to live in truth, to stay real, to hold yourself accountable to your own frequency. So Scorpio, if you've ever wondered why people project onto you, why they react so strongly when all you did was exist, it's because your presence is not neutral. It's sacred, it's alchemical, it's a mirror they didn't know they were walking into. And now you know, now you remember. You don't need to speak, you don't need to convince. You don't need to try, just be there, be real, be anchored. And let your presence do what it came here to do. But Scorpio, the path doesn't stop here, because once your presence becomes a force, once just being you shifts the ground around you, another gift begins to emerge, a deeper one. One forged in silence, one most people fear. The gift of loving your own darkness. Let's descend into it. Gift 6. Loyalty to your own darkness. The courage to sit with the pain. Scorpio. Most people run from their darkness. They mask it. They numb it. They pray it away. But not you. You sit with it. You stare into it. You invite it to speak, because your 6th sacred gift is this: loyalty to your own darkness. The sacred ability to stay with your shadow. Not to worship it, but to transform it. You've never feared the void. You've lived there. In the nights where no one saw your tears, in the hours you questioned your worth, in the spaces where abandonment echoed louder than any scream, you've met your fear, you've held your grief, you've walked the halls of your own trauma without a flashlight. And you came back, not prettier, not polished, but powerful in a way only truth can make you. Scorpio. Most avoid the abyss. You became its cartographer. You've learned that darkness isn't evil, it's honest, it's raw. It's the birthplace of every real transformation. You know that what we deny only gains power, but what we face loses its grip, and so you chose a different path. You sat with the uncomfortable. You made space for the screaming silence. You asked your pain, "What do you want to teach me?" And that question has become your weapon, your compass, your ceremony. Let me offer a real-life mirror. Julia Roberts, Scorpio sun. She's known not just for her charm, but for her quiet depth. After devastating heartbreaks and public scrutiny, she didn't fold, she deepened. She took time away, faced her shadows, rebuilt not just her career, but her center. That's Scorpio. You don't rebound. You reconstruct. Scorpio, your darkness isn't a place you got lost in. It's a place you claimed, where others said this is too much. You said, "This is where I begin." You've cried into pillows soaked with silence. You've screamed into places no one else could hear. You've felt emotions that didn't belong to just this life, but lifetimes, and yet you never made pain your identity. You made it your initiation. You've turned wounds into wisdom, fear into fuel, shame into sacred truth. That's not just resilience, that's alchemy. But let's be honest, this gift doesn't come cheap. Being loyal to your own darkness means losing people who only wanted the light parts of you, saying no to quick fixes and fake smiles, enduring periods of loneliness so brutal they felt like death itself. But it also means knowing yourself in ways no one else can, becoming a safe space for others drowning in their own pain, holding space for grief without flinching. Because when you've walked through fire, you don't fear the burn. You become the flame that warms others back to life. Scorpio, you're not broken, you're forged. You're not dark because you're damaged. You're dark because you've done the work. You've walked through shame without armor. You've confronted your inner critic without mercy. You've made peace with the part of you that others disowned. And in doing so, you became someone who can't be manipulated, who can't be gaslit, who can't be controlled by fear. Because you know yourself, and no one can take that from you. So if they say, "You're too much," "You're too intense," "You're too emotional," smile gently, because what they mean is, "I haven't faced what you've already survived." You don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself reverence, because this gift, this loyalty to your own shadow, has made you a guardian of truth, a midwife of rebirth, a soul others trust with their secrets. Because they know you won't flinch, you've already stared down your own. But now, Scorpio, a final gift rises, one that explains everything: why you see so clearly, why you transform so powerfully, why your love is sacred, why your silence awakens, why your presence shifts the room, why your shadow doesn't destroy you but builds you. This gift is your origin, your answer, your cosmic role. The awakening of hidden consciousness. Let's return to the stars. Gift 7, the awakening of hidden consciousness. You were sent here with ancient fire. Scorpio, there's a reason why everything in your life has felt more intense, why you've always been different, why truth feels sacred, why lies taste like poison, why you can't just exist, you must awaken. Because your 7th and final sacred gift is this, the awakening of hidden consciousness, the knowing behind the knowing, the soul memory that refuses to stay asleep. You were never just here to have a job, to date, to pay bills, to live your best life. No, you were sent here as a channel, as a bridge between what is seen and what has been forgotten. You feel things before they happen. You see things no one else notices. You carry grief that didn't start with you. You speak truths you never studied. Why? Because you are remembering what the world has forgotten. Even as a child, you knew too much. You sensed the energy in a room before words were spoken. You could feel other people's pain and often thought it was your own. You dreamt in symbols, felt haunted by things that didn't have names. Stared at the stars not for beauty but for answers. And now, Scorpio. The veil is thinner than ever. This gift is not new. It's been with you all along. But only now, after the other 6 gifts have activated, is it fully awake. And now, so are you. You are not just intuitive. You are multidimensional. You hear between timelines. You speak in soul codes. You understand silence like it's a language. You feel messages in your bones. Not because you read them somewhere, but because you carried them here from before you were born. You don't just touch the spiritual, you are the spiritual. You are not seeking truth, you embody it. Take Scorpio actor Joaquin Phoenix. He doesn't just play characters. He channels them, he becomes something otherworldly. His performances feel like transmissions from another dimension. That's Scorpio, that's you. When you surrender to who you truly are, you become the vessel, a carrier of sacred transmission, a mirror for those ready to awaken, a light in the deepest dark. But let's make this clear, this gift isn't about being special. It's about being available to truth, to mystery, to the divine chaos of awakening. It's not about showing off. It's about showing up real, raw, present, because when you live in alignment with your gifts, you don't need to convince anyone of your power. They feel it in your silence, in your eyes, in the way they can't stop thinking about something you said 2 weeks ago. Scorpio, this is your final gift. But it's also the beginning. Because now, you don't just feel awakened. You awaken others, your presence becomes permission, your truth becomes a tuning fork, your story becomes prophecy. People won't always know why they're drawn to you, but their soul will. Because you carry what they've been missing, the memory of who they really are. And yes, this gift can be heavy. Sometimes you'll feel too sensitive, too strange, too ancient in a world that worships speed and surface, but you're not crazy. You're awake, you're not broken, you're activated. The world doesn't need more influencers, it needs more initiators. And that's what you are, Scorpio, not a personality, not a brand, but a sacred threshold. So now I ask you, Scorpio, what will you do with this gift? Will you keep hiding, keep shrinking, keep pretending you don't know what you know? Or will you step in, speak up, stand as the soul you came here to be? Because your power is not just yours, it's a map for others to find their way back home. Scorpio, you were born to disturb the stagnant, to ignite the hidden, to awaken the slumbering spirits around you. And now it's your time. Let this gift be your permission. Let this moment be your remembering. Let this breath be the beginning. You are not too much, you are not alone, you are not late. You are exactly what the world has been waiting for.